Hello. In this video, we're going to take a look at the implementation of a function called frontMiddleBack. It's been developed, thinking with coding that in mind. Same kind of exercise. So the first thing you always want to do when you work through these is you want to read the information about the function, and in this case, it's all contained in the header. So we start off with a description, and the below function will return true if the middle element is the same as the first and last element, and it returns false otherwise. And then we indicate what is taken as parameters, and it is a list, and the list contains an odd length, an odd number of elements. Let's fix that. This question, to really work, it has to be an odd number of elements because you can find a middle element with an odd length of elements. If you had an even length, the middle element wouldn't be as clear. But that would be a good modification. This question is something you might want to try and change after. The return type is it returns true if the first, last, and middle elements are the same. And then, of course, we have a couple examples here. So we invoke the function frontMiddleBack, and we pass it this list. And we see that the first element is 1, the middle element is 1, and the last element is 1, so it returns true. In our second example, the first element is 1, the middle element is 5, and the last element is 1. And they're not all the same, so it returns false. And in the third example, it has one element, and it means that this one element is both the first, middle, and last, and we see that it returns true. So if we scroll down a bit here, just a couple comments before we dive into a solution. A common error in this is to calculate the middle index using the length of the list divided by 2. What that's going to do is it's going to generate a float value, which is a decimal value, and remember your index has to be an integer, and this should be integer. Since this is a true or false return type, the Boolean expression can be used in the return line, and that's kind of an optimization approach we'll look at. And often students will get confused on this type of question because I haven't indicated the type of values in the list. And actually it doesn't matter because whether it's strings, floats, or integers, how you compare them is really the same operation. So here's our first solution. We can find the last index by taking the length of the list and subtracting 1. So this calculates last index. We can find the middle index by taking the length of the list and integer dividing by 2. And this is important here, integer division, because otherwise we get a float. And then we just set up a basic conditional structure that says, is the first element the same as the last element? And is the first element the same as the middle element? Notice here you don't have to compare the middle element to the last element because, it has, in mathematics we call it the transitive property. If A is equivalent to B and B is equivalent to C, then A is equivalent to C. You could put here and, last at middle index is equivalent to, list at middle index is equivalent to list at last index, but not necessary. And otherwise we return false. Remember here, a lot of people will do this, and that's perfectly acceptable. But because, remember, as soon as we reach a return statement, the function ends, we don't need to actually put it in an else. We can just kind of put it after the conditional structure. Now, a little bit more of an optimized approach here is because this function returns true or false, which is a Boolean, and this if statement evaluates to true or false, we can actually return the evaluated value. And that only works because if this evaluates to true, it returns true. If this evaluates to false, it returns false. So one possible implementation, which I have commented out here, is just return list at 0, and basically, just return that Boolean expression. And I've optimized it a little by actually doing these calculations inside the actual access line for the list element. So here's a little test code down below. What I've done is I've invoked the function inside a print statement, so we just kind of get the result to the screen. And if I right click and give this a run, sure enough we just have to look at that. True, false, true. So I hope this video helped. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Have a wonderful day.